All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a pretty wild, deeply metaphorical framework written by Lifechanyuan back in 2020. This translated text completely flips the script on how we look at the universe, existence, and, honestly, our own place in it. It's the kind of framework that asks you to just toss out everything you thought you knew and look at reality through a completely fresh, highly structured lens.
Think about this for a second. What if heaven and hell aren't these impossibly distant, mystical places millions of light years apart? What if instead it's all simply a matter of temperature? According to the text we're exploring, we shouldn't look at existence as these blocked-off separate dimensions. Instead, think of it as one massive connected landscape. And the entire layout of this cosmic map, it's dictated entirely by shifting abstract temperatures.
To make sense of this, the author gives us this incredible visual metaphor. Think of existence as a grand, sweeping painting. Starting right at the very top of the canvas, you have the frigid zone. Picture driving snow, biting cold winds, just a totally lifeless world of ice. In this framework, this stark, frozen wasteland actually represents the frozen layer of hell. We're talking absolute bitter cold. Now, as your eyes move down to the middle of the painting, we hit the temperate zone. This right here represents our human world, and it's painted as a sort of bleak autumn landscape. You've got yellowing vegetation, the melancholy sound of winter cicadas, and fresh grain drifting on the wind. It's functional, right? We can survive here, but there's this undeniable underlying sense of transience and, well, melancholy to the whole thing.
Finally, as we drop down to the lower section of this metaphorical painting, we arrive at the tropical zone. And this represents heaven. It's lush, it's vibrant, a literal garden bursting with the beauty of spring. You've got tweeting birds, blooming flowers, just absolute total vitality. So you see we have this continuous top-to-bottom spectrum flowing from absolute frozen cold straight down to vibrant tropical warmth.
Now here's where this framework really challenges the status quo. Usually, when we think about heaven, earth, and hell, we imagine them as completely separate, distant realms, right? Maybe even totally different planes of reality. But Lifechanyuan's big revelation is that all three are connected on a single continuum. They are literally parts of the exact same painting. Hell is connected to earth, and earth is connected to heaven. So leaving earth just means you smoothly transition into either heaven or hell, and the only boundary line is temperature.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, if it's all one giant connected continuum, why on earth don't we see it? Well, to explain our massive blind spot, Lifechanyuan uses this slightly funny, but honestly brilliant thought experiment. Imagine a tiny ant crawling right in the middle of this massive painting. That little ant would be completely oblivious to the freezing snow at the top and the tropical paradise at the bottom.
And that hits the nail on the head because humans are exactly like that ant. We have a micro view. We're trapped in our specific little area, the temperate zone, and we're totally blind to the rest of the canvas. We lack the macro view. When you actually zoom out and see the big cosmological picture, you finally understand how life exists across all these different temperatures. But because we can't physically see the non-material universe with our own two eyes, we just mistakenly assume heaven and hell either don't exist or they're just impossibly far away.
Because our perspective is so incredibly limited, the author argues that humanity desperately needs an enlightened guide. We need someone who already has that macro view to explain the big picture to us, to literally point out the route to heaven. The text actually warns that if we just stumble around relying on ourselves to navigate this giant painting, we could search for 1,000 years and never actually figure out how to leave the temperate zone.
So the absolute key to unlocking all of this is a concept called life temperature. And let's be clear, the author stresses that this is an abstract measurement. We are not talking about your physical body heat. So no, catching a fever isn't going to fast track you to heaven. Instead, life temperature is all about your vibrational frequency, your non-material structure, and the abstract weight of your life. It's your internal temperature that decides exactly where you settle on the canvas.
So how does this grand, abstract cosmology actually apply to you and me? Well, the text breaks human behavior down into 3 distinct personality types and maps out exactly where they end up based on their temperature. This is where the whole concept basically becomes a mirror for our daily habits. Let's walk through these 3 types together.
First up, we have Type 1, the indifferent. The text describes these folks as cold, selfish, aggressive, cruel, and super jealous. They're obsessed with greed, and they constantly complain and whine about everything. Because they carry around all these heavy, toxic traits, their life temperature just plummets. And that dense, cold energy literally drags them upward toward the frigid zone.
leaving them to languish in the frozen layer of hell.
Then we have type 2, the lukewarm. These are the people who just completely lack enthusiasm and passion. They're indifferent, confused, unmotivated, and they're really just drifting through life. They aren't excessively greedy, but they aren't dedicated to anything good either. They don't harm, but they don't help. Because their energy is just lukewarm. They don't freeze and they don't heat up. They just stagnate, stuck right here in the temperate human world.
But then, in stark contrast, you've got type 3, the exuberant. These individuals are just bursting with vitality. They actively bring hope, joy, and light to the people around them. They tackle difficulties with total confidence. They love contributing to society, and they never sit around complaining. This warm, vibrant energy gives them a high life temperature, and that warmth naturally causes them to drift south on our metaphorical painting, carrying them straight into the splendor of the tropical zone, heaven.
Now you might be sitting there thinking, wait, are all human beings really just sorted into 3 neat little boxes? Well, the author is quick to point out that this 3-tier system is a very rough, simplified explanation. The universe is way more complex than that, and this vast painting is actually filled with all sorts of gradient transitional zones.
For instance, the space between the human world and hell isn't just a sudden drop-off. Our non-material structures actually pass through highly complex transitional levels. We're talking about the livestock layer, the wildlife layer, the yin and yang layer, and even the plant layer. It's a very gradual shifting of temperatures and states of being.
And going the other direction, the journey from Earth up toward heaven features its own mystical intermediate states. Before you ever reach the absolute tropical zone, the text describes transitional worlds, like the Asura world and the heaven realm, which traditional literature points to as the home of figures like the Jade Emperor. The path upward is heavily layered with ascending vibrational frequencies.
What this brilliantly illustrates is that heaven itself isn't just one giant monolith. It's actually subdivided into ascending tiers of pure bliss. According to the text, these internal divisions include the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and at the very peak, the Elysium world. Basically, the warmer your life temperature gets, the deeper into this tropical paradise your non-material structure goes.
Which brings us to the ultimate revelation of this incredibly fascinating text. Yes, the map of existence is vast, it's complex, and it's filled with infinite transitional zones across a single continuum. But your trajectory within this massive painting, that is determined entirely by you. It is 100% dictated by your daily choices, your attitudes, and how you treat the people around you. You are the ones setting your own abstract thermostat.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Take a hard look at your daily actions, the energy you bring into a room, and the impact you have on others. Ask yourself honestly, based on your behavior, what is your life temperature right now? Are you radiating the freezing cold of indifference, the lukewarm stagnation of just drifting by, or the vibrant warmth needed for a tropical spring? Keep that in the back of your mind as you go about your day.